It's a Myths Revisited special.
This may look like a salami, but it's rocket fuel.
As the team goes head-to-head with disgruntled viewers. First, they're resetting their sights on splitting an arrow.
He hit this dead on.
Then the bullet into water myth sinks to a new depth. And finally,
Whoa!
the famous Confederate rocket gets a meat makeover.
Damn, I'm lighting salamis, man. I'm making a rocket out of meat.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Ants are all over my head, man.
and Jamie Hyneman.
Gets me all worked up just looking at it.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
That was heavy.
Joining them, Grant Imahara,
Go get him, boy.
Tori Belleci,
Whoa.
and Carrie Byron.
That was crazy!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
So we're about to do one of my all-time favorite things we do on the show, which is a revisit episode. And I mean, no other show that I know of ever comes to a conclusion that they are willing to reverse upon further investigation. And every time we do this, I think we come up with even better results and we silence our critics.
I don't know. I think it's just a lot of whining. What do we have up this time?
Bullets fired into water's a good one.
Bullets fired into water. We also have, come on.
Confederate rocket?
Confederate rocket.
Okay.
And there's one more.
The most controversial, I have to say, has got to be splitting an arrow.
The amount of vitriol in my mailbox about that one is just crazy. So are we going to silence them this time?
Not only did we get it right the first time, but this time we're going to make you sure of it.
Well, in that case, splitting an arrow seems like a good place to start.
I can't believe how much controversy splitting an arrow episode brought up. It's ridiculous how many people are on the message boards telling us that we screwed up.
I know. I mean, they had a problem with almost everything. With the bows we were using, with the shafts we were shooting into, and with the arrowheads. I mean, I don't know. Was there anything they didn't have a problem with?
The costumes?
Yeah, I had a problem with those.
The outfits were the one thing the fans didn't mind as the team tested another costume drama. In Robin Hood, Errol Flynn made it look so easy.
He split Philip's arrow.
A split from knock all the way to tip. And a split second later, the crowd went ballistic.
Yeah, ready? Yep.
But when the MythBusters emulated Errol, their long shots were a bit of a long shot.
Nice grouping, Grant.
So they did a point-blank test, which still didn't seal the deal.
Oh, that happened.
But according to viewers, the team used the wrong bow, the wrong arrowheads, the wrong arrow shafts. The fans think it's still possible.
Well, let's do it their way this time. We'll take all of their advice, and in addition, we'll have our researchers dig up information on making our own arrows in the period materials in the way that they did it at that time, and see what happens.
So for this revisit, our sharpshooters are going to listen to the fans as they build fully authentic medieval arrows, starting with the shafts. According to a Friar Tuck load of fans, to split an arrow, it must be made of perfectly straight-grained timber. And would you believe it? One viewer has donated the perfect piece.
Our wood was sent to us all the way from British Columbia. From Boards by George, he hand-picked out every one of these pieces to have the straightest possible grains. Instead of just telling us we did it wrong, he's actually participating in this revisit. I love that.
As well as I. I love it too.
Good old George. But what is it that makes this cedar so special?
As you can see, it's splitting all the way down the length of the wood. If we make arrows out of this is going to be our best chance of splitting an arrow.
An arrow that has the grain running straight through it is, so the fans reckon, ideal. But to get the arrows even more on the straight and narrow, Carrie's going to steam them into shape. And her steam box has got that certain feminine touch.
I brought a few things from home. I brought this, which is for facials, and it makes steam. And this is a home hair curling kit, which is also to make steam, which if you're a girl, I'm sure you know exactly what these are, and if you're a man, you just think I'm crazy.
They're going to add the 30-inch long traditional shafts, turn on Carrie's feminine charms, and hey presto, they should get some dead straight grain arrows. Which means that Tori and Grant can get to grips with how to fire them.
Here on MythBusters, we like to reinvent the wheel, and apparently we chopped up our last robotic arrow firing machine to save space in the shop. So we need to build it again.
The guys thought this myth was so busted that they busted their ArrowBot. So now they've got to make it anew. But ArrowBot 2 will be slightly different so that it can fire a more authentic Robin Hood type weapon.
We've gone from using a compound bow to a longbow, which is more traditional. We're trying to, keep the circumstances the way they would be if you were, splitting an arrow.
And talking of arrows, Carrie's adding the finishing touches.
I'm preparing the fletching for the arrows. It is the little feathery end of the arrows that keep it steady in flight. From the reference material we have, it looks as though in the Middle Ages that the feathers that would have been used would have been goose or possibly peacock or swan, most commonly goose.
While Carrie has a gander at the fletchings, Tori's getting to the sharp end.
I'm gonna forge my own arrowheads. The thinking behind it is, since it's heavier than the modern day arrowheads, it might have a better chance of splitting the arrows, kind of like an axe would split a log.
But, as ever, Tori's taking a few shortcuts.
Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not using a forge. I'm actually using an acetylene torch.
He's making an armor-piercing tip called a bodkin, which was the most common arrowhead of Robin Hood's time.
Yes, I know they didn't have steel grinders back in the old days, but if they had had them, they would have used them.
Seems like he's got an axe to grind with those angry viewers.
And there you go, an arrowhead. Now all we have to do is split an arrow.
But first, there's one final thing to finish these firers, strengthening the knock.
So what I've got here is a goat horn, and the idea is that you put a split in the arrow and take a sliver of this horn, put it in there, and whip a string around to reinforce.
The reinforced goat knock is the last addition to make the arrows completely Robin Hood compatible. But ironically, this may actually hinder the arrow split attempt. A perfectly straight-grained cedar arrow may well split when hit dead on, but the goat horn in a traditional arrow could be so hard that it might block the path of the fired flyer to make a split impossible. But historical accuracy is what viewers wanted, so the strengthening horn is going to stay. And to complete the quest for authenticity, Tori wants to use the homemade darts not just as the target arrows, but also as the fired flyers. But that will only work if they fly straight and true.
So we just finished building our arrows ye olde style. My feeling is that when we fire these things, they're probably going to explode on impact because the wood isn't that strong.
Well, why not do a test fire?
Firing in 3, 2, 1.
A bullseye it ain't.
Oh, wow.
Well, it looked like a strong firing.
Yeah, they don't fire so straight, though.
Not so much.
How the hell did we get it at that angle? That's what I want to know.
It looked almost like it hit something on the way out.
Maybe it hit the fletching.
Yeah, it's possible.
The authentic arrow is about as accurate as a Scud missile. But because the team still wants to use them as both the splitter and the splittee, it's going with the point-blank test straight away. And Tori's in charge of the high-tech aiming system.
Ready?
Ready?
High speed ready? Go.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa. That was cool.
It was right on the money, but there was no split. The force from the bow broke the fired arrow in half. So for test 2, they're going to try a stronger, modern arrow, still aiming at the authentic target.
Go.
It's a tougher arrow, but the same result.
Oh, shoot.
The modern firer's as bent as a $3 bill, yet the target arrow is virtually unscathed. To get the elusive split, they're going to need a plan B. The next revisit is from the explosive Confederate rocket, where the MythBusters went ballistic. Adam and Jamie built, aimed, and launched missiles made out of Civil War-era technology. But try as they might, they found that even their souped-up hybrid retro rocket couldn't fly the mythical 120 miles.
Here it goes.
So you guys are revisiting Confederate rocket? How come? I mean, didn't your last 3 rocket systems work perfectly and you busted the myth, right?
When we were doing the original, we came across a piece of information that we had to have a crack at.
Apparently, these hybrid rockets are so simple and effective that they'll run off of just about anything, even a Salami.
So you guys are gonna fuel these rockets with Salami?
Yep.
Bet.
When it comes to rocket fuel, the MythBusters like to think outside the box.
It's got to be one of the stranger things we've ever done. I mean, I'm about to chuck a Salami into the lathe.
Sure is strange, but these hybrid rockets are so efficient that apparently any hydrocarbon, even salami, can be fuel.
This may look like a salami, it may smell like a salami, may even taste like a salami, but it's rocket fuel.
While the fuel is going to be a little off the wall, everything else about their rocket is going to match their Confederate rocket blueprint. That MythBusters missile was split into 2 halves. The bottom section contained the paraffin wax fuel, which, on ignition, gently smoldered until the top half's liquid nitrous oxide was added with explosive results. This time, they'll keep the same burn-enhancing NOx oxidizer, but replace the wax fuel with a string of sausages. And that's not the only change, because this time, there's no need to stick to Civil War-era technology.
Yep, that's about perfect.
They can make their Salami rocket a little more refined, starting with the launch system.
3 switches. One's going to be the fill shutoff. One will be the quick release removal of the filling hose. And the third will be the launch button.
They next want to modernize the way they fill the tank with nitrous oxide. Because last time they struggled to tell if it was filling at all, and disconnection was rather dicey.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I knew I was going to do that.
So now they're going to put the tank under vacuum and draw the nitrous oxide in.
What I've got to do here is pull a vacuum on this tank and see whether it actually sucks a sufficient amount of water into it, the same volume of which we'll be intending to pull in nitrous oxide.
It's an ingenious idea, but one worth testing out with water pre-launch. Success! The MythBusters adore a vacuum. Come experiment day, they'll now be able to completely fill the NOx tank to ensure max thrust from the Salami. But does Salami have any thrust to give? Cue engineer Roger McCarthy.
Good. How are you?
Roger's no stranger to meat myths. When Adam and Jamie hammered out the myth of the disappearing sniper shot, their ice bullets got nowhere fast. Luckily, Roger was on hand to recommend they turn their attention to frozen meat instead. But now he's here to talk baloney.
So, Roger, have you ever heard of a hybrid rocket using a salami as fuel?
Well, quite honestly, I've never heard of a rocket using the salami as fuel, but they have enough nitrate in them, And nitrate is a key ingredient in many, if not most, explosives. So the question is, can you get those nitrates into the chemical reaction? If you can, it won't take much to make things a lot more exciting.
Well, I'll be darned. From what you're saying, maybe we'll have too much energy from this new fuel.
If you can engage those chemicals in this reaction, and that's the part I don't know, you will have more energetics than just straight paraffin.
So, according to Roger, Salami may shoot for the moon yet. Spurred on by this progress, the MythBusters race ahead with the final touches to their lunch meat launcher.
There's your rocket nozzle.
That's beautiful.
With the nozzle in place, the team joins up the two halves of the engine.
That is so light.
A shiny rocket hull later. And that is that. One hybrid rocket with nitrous oxide as the oxidizer and salami as the fuel.
Okay.
Go for it.
And
That is great.
okay.
I love it.
It sure is lovely. But will it work? Well, before heading to mission control in the desert, Jamie and Adam are first going to put their meat missile through a lockdown test fire at Alameda.
You got your, your pepperoni, you got your salami, you got bologna.
So I can't get a veggie?
No veggie rockets. Sorry.
How much later?
Pyrotechnician Jack Morocco is here because he has a license to pack black powder.
So, Jack, can I set you up with helping us manufacture the salami rocket engines?
Absolutely. I just hope I don't get too hungry.
If the salamis are going to burn explosively when the NOx is added, they first need to be on fire. And a small coating of gunpowder should do just the job.
Let's just see what it does.
All right.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Whoa!
Kaboobie.
8 salami rolls later, and it's time to play hide the sausage.
Well, there's the first engine going in.
They're wrapping them in paper because they want them to fit snugly in the rocket.
3.
This should make sure that all 8 of them burn evenly.
Last one.
With the motor packed and loaded, the rocket is locked down so that it can ignite but can't take off. And then it's all systems go.
This is another one of those things where you just run through so many of the safety procedures and so many of the systems in your head that every now and then you have to remind yourself and go, damn, I'm lighting salamis, man. I'm making a rocket out of meat.
But will it make mincemeat of this myth?
This is proof of concept static test of the salami rocket. I'm gonna release the nitrous oxide.
Off she goes.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, launch and shut up. What was that?
The rocket is gone.
No way.
No, not gone up in the air, Adam, but gone to the dogs.
Oh, whoops.
Did it blow up?
Yep. The engine's gone.
No.
Their notorious PIG wasn't a rocket, but it sure was a blast. The place looks like a massacre in a deli. Time for a post-mortem.
What I saw when Adam pushed the button was that there was flame coming out of the bottom of the rocket. That meant that the ignition worked, the black powder worked, and it lit. And then there was a pause when the nitrous oxide was opened. And then it was just gone.
Amazingly, the salami fuel was too powerful. As it burned, there was an excess of exhaust, and the pressure built up until kaboom! For the boys to get some pastrami propulsion, it's back to the drawing board.
Let's get some brooms and start cleaning up this carnage asada.
Yeah, there's meat everywhere. It's disgusting.
Back with Splitting an Arrow, the team is going crazy with deja vu as it attempts to bust this myth once again. Despite making the most splittable arrow possible and using a traditional bow with a 90-pound draw, their point-blank shot failed miserably. And Grant knows why.
At that range, we're putting a huge amount of force on the arrow, and that's why they're either breaking or, in the case of the aluminum arrow, bending. So I think we actually need to go back to doing a range test. Let the arrow fly. That way, we're not pushing on it to try and push through the other arrow.
With their point-blank test shafted, the archery range is the perfect place to test this myth once and for all. And as in their recent test, they're going to use their authentic arrows as the target, but modern arrows to fire.
The important thing is that we're using the replica arrows as the target arrow, because it's really not going to matter the arrow that goes into it. Half as much as it matters that the arrow it's going into is made with period materials.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Close, but not close enough. Of course, they can only split the arrow if they actually hit it. So they dial in the focus.
Here we go, 3, 2, 1. You know, I think we hit it because it's definitely off target.
Sure enough, this time they got a direct hit, but no splitting. And that's the same story for their next 5 fires. Hit after hit, but no knock-to-tip split, which is all a little familiar. When these guys first tested this myth, they filmed something surprising. Straight as an arrow is not how arrows actually fly. They bend and wobble through the air, which makes getting a split almost impossible. The same thing is happening here, but the team got too many vitriolic emails to abandon this myth now.
Somehow I feel like this has happened before.
Deja vu? Something reminding you of something like we may have done this once?
Come on.
They're not giving up without a fight. We couldn't do a Myths Revisited without one gun story, so here it is.
So, bullets fired into water. What did we do wrong with that one? I thought we did great.
You did do great, but the viewers, in addition to all that testing, would have liked to have seen us fire guns underwater.
Oh, that might get past the bullet hitting the water deceleration problem that we were having.
It's another opportunity to break out the guns, I guess, huh?
Last time, the Mythbusters broke out guns galore to see if bullets really are stopped by water.
This is the M1 Grant 30 caliber at 2 feet.
And the results were surprising. The more powerful the gun,
This kills you and everyone else in the room.
the more ineffective the bullet in water. Fans were happy with these findings, but now want to know whether guns actually work when submerged. To find out, Tori, Carrie, and Grant are going to build a water trough, drown their weapons, and see at what distance they penetrate a block of ballistics material. But at 30 foot long, the trough will hold over 3 tons of water. And that's got Tori worried.
My biggest fear is that we fill this thing up with water and the thing just explodes. But that would be cool, so I don't know if it's a fear or it's a hope. It's one of those.
While Tori decides whether he wants his rig to work or not, Carrie's putting the finishing touches to the target.
We're using a ballistic substance. It's almost like waxy because it won't be affected by the water, which our gel would start to dissipate and dissolve.
They'll put this ballistics block in the water trough before shooting at it with the Mythbusters arsenal.
King Cobra. 6 Hour P239, 9mm. M1 Grand. And a personal favorite, 12-gauge shotgun.
Of course, there are special forces guns, like the Glock 17 or the SPP-1 that can fire underwater. But this myth is about regular weapons like these. Will any of them shoot from the hip when submerged in Tori's newly reinforced, water-filled trough?
All right, that's good. And you guys doubted me.
There's just one thing to do before the shooting match, and that's some ballistics calibration.
We're about to fire a BB into our ballistics material. By the depth of how far this BB can get into there is basically going to be a control for our bullets. The BB will penetrate the skin, so if any of our shards of bullet or any of the rounds can go as far as the BB, then we'll know it would have penetrated the skin.
And if any penetrate further, then that's a lethal hit. So, what's the result?
That's as far as this went in.
Okay, so we'll call this 1/4 inch. So any deeper than 1/4 inch is potentially lethal.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
With the ballistics target calibrated, they lower it into the trough.
Perfect fit.
Nice work.
Then, under the supervision of Rangemaster Stephen Liu, they make sure the guns are at the ready, starting with the 9mm.
All right, here we are, main event. We're about to fire a bullet underneath the water. What I need to do is I need to open the chamber of the gun and make sure there's no air at all in the barrel.
The gun must be air-free because otherwise it could explode if the bullet passes from air to water inside the barrel.
Okay, we are loaded and ready to fire.
For each gun, they want to know two things. Over what distance is it lethal? But before that, will it even fire underwater?
9mm, first shot. 3, 2, 1. That looked cool. I think that might have made it all the way.
That was rad. The whole water just like leaped up.
Yeah.
I think it went far.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. I'd say that was about 18 feet.
18 feet.
And the bullet is perfectly intact.
One thing we're just kind of skipping over is we've just proven that you can fire a bullet underneath water.
Oh, you're right.
So, right there, it's confirmed. It's possible to shoot a gun underneath water.
Test 1's passed. A 9mm will fire underwater, but as Grant discovers, it won't reload.
So, check it out. When I was resetting the ransom rest, I found the shell casing caught in the slide.
It didn't eject the bullet.
No, because it relies on the pressure.
Right, and you have that water on top of it.
So
if you're shooting underwater, you only have one shot to kill the bad guy.
Yeah, you better get it right.
So, you've got one shot, but over what distance is it life-threatening? In the original story,
Okay, this is 9mm pistol at 8 feet.
Adam and Jamie showed you'd have to dive 8 feet to survive a shot from a 9mm. When it's fired into water from air.
Whoa, no, that didn't go all the way through.
But what about when it's in the water to begin with?
From the barrel to the ballistics material, we're 10 feet. We're going with another 9mm round full metal jacket.
In 3, 2, 1.
Another fire. But was it lethal?
So it didn't even have the penetration of a BB.
No,
Not lethal.
not at 10 feet. All right, why don't we do 2 feet, see what happens there.
Great. 9mm at 2 feet.
Oh, yeah.
But this time, when they look for the round, there's a problem. It's nowhere to be found. There's no obvious hole in the ballistics material.
Oh, it's the magic bullet.
It's a disappearing bullet.
It disappeared.
And it's not tucked away in the trough.
Don't see it in here
It's all a bit of a mystery.
anywhere.
At 2 feet, we couldn't find the bullet. So what we're going to have to do is dissect the ballistics material block at the end of the experiment and see if we can find it. Right now, we're going to move on to the 357.
There's no time to stop and search. With the light fading fast, the team must crack on with the rest of their weaponry.
Okay.
357 Magnum full metal jacket in 3, 2, 1. Was that a bigger boom?
I don't see a big hole.
Bigger boom, same problem. The round is nowhere to be seen.
No bullets.
The 357 sure works underwater. But its deadliness is going to need some further dissection. In the Confederate rocket revisit, Adam and Jamie have had a Salami setback. Their mythical meat missile was more of a baloney boom.
So how'd the Salami-powered rockets go?
It didn't go. It catastrophically failed on the launch pad.
Well, that doesn't sound like a failure, but I guess you do need to make a rocket, so what are you gonna do next?
We learned that there is enough energy in a Salami to cause an explosion, so that means there ought to be enough energy to launch a rocket. We just need to refine it a little bit, and I had the thought that we could possibly make a smaller version using paintball gun tanks that we could get together pretty quickly.
So they're shrinking things down to 2 small paintball tanks joined by a valve. The top tank will be filled with liquid nitrous oxide, and the bottom stuffed with a solitary Salami. It's a mad rush because the boys are well behind schedule. Luckily, the advantage of this new design is that it's easy to put together.
Rocket nozzle.
1 Salami later, and the new rocket is ready. But this time, they're also going to make several backup rockets, each of which will have a different exit nozzle to try to maximize the chances of a launch.
If we run one out on the stand and it blows up, we can go with a bigger nozzle. If we use a big nozzle and it doesn't do anything, but it just fizzes, we can use a smaller nozzle. This ought to allow us the number of tests required to prove that this can work.
But it's not just rocket motors they're making. This new design also needs a new stand, new switches, and a new launcher. And after 4 sweaty hours,
you think we're ready to pack out?
I think we're ready.
At last, for the great Salami showdown, it's off to the middle of nowhere. Previously, Adam and Jamie investigated whether bullets are stopped by water when shot into it from air. But what about when the guns are also submerged? Well, Tori, Carrie, and Grant have found that handguns do fire underwater. But until the ballistics block is dissected to find the bullets, their deadliness is unknown. But right now, it's time for the big guns.
Just washing my guns.
When Adam and Jamie fired their shotgun into water, they found that it was deadly at a distance of 10 feet.
Jesus wept, Jamie. That's definitely a lethal hit.
But what about when the gun is already under?
Okay.
Shotgun at 10 feet underwater in 3, 2, 1.
Just like the handguns, there's fire in the hole. But this time, there is a difference.
Dang. Oh, look at that. It cracked all the way.
The gun has exploded in half.
Now, do you think that's because there was air in there somewhere, or it's just a really bad idea to shoot a shotgun underwater?
I think it's a bad idea to shoot shotgun underwater.
I doubt seriously there's any air in there.
What a shame.
So, shotgun hunting underwater?
Busted.
With the shotgun sunk, there's 1 rifle remaining.
Up next, we have the M1 Garand, which actually has the exit velocity of 2,700 feet per second, which is basically like 3 times the energy of any of the guns we've shot today.
Last time, the super-fast M1's bullet disintegrated virtually on impact with the water. But now, when under, will it make you drown your sorrows?
M1 Garand in 3, 2, 1.
That was a good one.
The gun's in one piece, but the bullet.
Here's the bullet.
Right there?
Yep. So.
What is that? What is that, about 6 feet?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Around 6 feet. Unless you're point blank, I don't think this thing's lethal.
I mean, it fell at 6 feet.
Yeah. And it didn't even make it to our target.
This time, the bullet hasn't shattered, but it's still been rendered ineffective by water.
I would say, though, it's pretty intimidating. I think if somebody was shooting one of those at me underwater and saw that explosion, I'd still be freaking out.
Frightening for sure, but just a few kicks away, and the water will prevent the M1's bullet from spilling your blood. But can the same be said of the handguns?
We're back at the shop now, and we've taken our block of ballistics material, and we need to dissect it because we didn't find any bullets or any bullet holes, and we want to find out if there might be one lodged in there that we can't see. You guys find anything?
No. There's no holes. There's nothing.
Okay, let's take this off and just start cutting into it.
Slice and dice.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's a careful operation as the team carves off one layer at a time. But it's beginning to look like the handgun rounds didn't even make it in.
And there's nothing in here.
Looks clean.
Yeah.
Until...
Wait. I feel something.
Hey. Hey! There it is.
It's the 9mm.
It's 9.
It's the 9.
I'm 2 inches from the back, which means it penetrated 4 inches deep.
That's lethal. Well, let's keep cutting it because we still don't have the 357.
The 357 Magnum is more powerful than the 9mm, so the team keeps cutting deeper.
Hey.
Here's the other one.
How deep is that?
Wow, that went.
Oh, whoa.
That almost went all the way through.
All the way.
I would say that's about 5.5, 5 3/4 inches.
Yeah.
So at 2 feet, the Magnum, like the other handgun, will send you to a watery grave.
So guys, bullets fired underwater, how did you do?
Well, Jamie, you can actually fire a handgun or a rifle underneath water.
But not a shotgun.
Well, what happens to the shotgun?
Blows up.
My young friend, were they lethal?
Neither of them were lethal at a distance of more than 3 feet.
It's actually more lethal to fire into water than underwater.
So, what are you guys going to call this? Busted, plausible, or confirmed?
Confirmed. You can
Confirmed.
fire a gun underwater.
Yes.
Well, nice work, guys.
Thanks, Jamie.
Back with splitting an arrow, the team has fired over 30 shots. But so far, the authentic handmade target arrow has failed to split it all. And Tori thinks he knows why.
Should we take the horn out so that, we're giving ourselves the best chance of splitting this arrow?
Yeah, we could certainly try that. I mean, that's how it was described in the historical text.
Let's just try to make our critics happy, because I'm tired of arguing with them anyway. Might as well take out the bone, so that if it really still doesn't split it, then we could go, ha!
As predicted, the traditional horny knock is so strong that the fired arrow gets diverted off target. So Grant's taking out the horn, which may help split the arrow, but makes this experiment no longer Robin Hood compatible.
There's your problem.
And that's not the only change. For this test, they're also going to add a whole host of target arrows. This bunching should ensure they get a direct hit.
3, 2, 1. It hit him, but it deflected up.
Again.
There's no split as the arrow snuck its way through the bunch target. But the team aren't quitting as they keep giving it their best shot.
3, 2, 1.
At least that is until Arrowbot starts misfiring. 2 shots in a row miss the bunch completely, and that means it's time to call in the big guns. Salami sure is popular. 2,500 tons of this innocuous-looking meat medley is eaten every year. But can it do more than just power our bodies? Can it fuel something altogether more spectacular? Well, the MythBusters have come to the middle of nowhere to find out.
It's dawn, it's freezing, and we're back on the original launch site of the Confederate rocket, except this time with a Salami-powered rocket.
Yeah, we know from the first test that we did that the energy is there. Hopefully we figured out how to harness it in such a way that it actually propels the rocket instead of explodes it. So, what do you think? Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's just go.
All right.
Just like at Alameda, they're going to position the rocket 500 feet away, crouch behind safety glass, and hope for the best. But this time, they've got a secret weapon. Rocket expert Eric Gates is here to help them. Eric is a regular Mythketeer. It was his rockets that gave the thrust to the famous rocket car. And without him, a full 360-degree ride around a swing set would have been impossible. This time, he's already altering Adam and Jamie's plans. Eric wants to replace the black powder ignition system with modern hobby rocket fuel. And as usual, he can't resist a demonstration to show why.
Your black powder is a quick flash, whereas this AP will burn for about 3 or 4 seconds with the constant heat to get the fuel hot for the nitrous.
Okay.
So if you want to push that button.
3, 2, 1. Oh, that's beautiful. That's what I wanted to see. It's making a nice jet down the throat of even that small donut, which will ignite the length of the sausage.
The hobby fuel should do a much better job at setting the salami alight before the NOx is added.
Neat as a whistle.
And as for the NOx, they've abandoned the vacuum filling system as they fill her up the old-fashioned way. A fancy finned rocket hull later, and she's taken to ground zero.
Everybody is aware that we're about to go hot. Over.
Go ahead and make the system hot.
Here in Mojave, the MythBusters have flight clearance up to 50,000 feet. So how high might this pastrami puppy soar?
What's going to happen? I give it a 20% chance of blowing up right on the stand, about a 50% chance of launching somewhere under 20 or 30 feet, and the rest is that it's going to go maybe to a couple thousand feet.
What we have to get here is an actual flight. Personally, I'm not going to be satisfied if it just gets off the launch rod and goes 10 feet in the air. I mean, technically that's a flight. I think it's going to go hundreds of feet, if not thousands of feet in the air.
Okay, so this is a Salami rocket with a 1/2-inch nozzle, firing in 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Hey! Look at that! 20 feet, man! What did I tell you?
I don't care, man, what anybody says. That was a Salami rocket, and it flew. Everything else is immaterial.
Fly it did, but this being MythBusters, we can't leave it at 20 feet. In Split Arrow, Tori, Carey, and Grant have been giving the Robin Hood myth their best shot. Yet, whatever they've tried, singles or bunches, they've failed to split even a hair. But they've got one more trick up their sleeve. And here he is, Jim Long.
This is great. I mean, that was one of the things that the viewers were saying is, why don't you get a professional shooter in?
I know, this is working out perfect.
This is it.
Jim is one of the best archers in the land, and this myth is now down to him.
He knocked the sticker off the end.
It's a pretty good start from our Robin Hood wannabe, and the team goes in for a closer look.
Did it split it at all?
You took out the fletching on this side.
And you split a little bit of the wood.
If that's his sighter, what's he gonna do when he gets his eye in?
There goes the other feather.
Wow. He's good.
The arrow's getting shredded, but not split. Jim's pinpoint accuracy allows him to get hit after hit, but even he can only get partial splits at best.
It's hitting it, just getting deflected.
Until...
Dang.
Ah, it's brutal. Oh, look at that. We got a split.
Look at that, almost like 10 inches long.
That's about a third of the way down the arrow.
It's taken over 60 direct hits to get the biggest split yet, but it's still only 1/3 of the arrow's length.
I think this is the closest we'll ever be able to come.
Yeah,
to splitting it. I mean, look.
Okay, I mean, it came in very, very cleanly. You can see it following straight down the grain till it gets to about here. And then it starts to go off kilter. He hit this dead on.
I mean, we can do this all day. I don't think we're gonna get a better shot than this.
How can you get a better shot than dead on with carbon fiber arrows?
Yeah, there's no way.
It's busted.
Given that the team made the most splittable arrow possible, and a whole day's worth of fires have failed to yield a knot-to-tip split, this myth is busted again. So how did they do it in the movie?
So we're switching to bamboo because we think that in the Robin Hood movie, in order to fake the splitting arrow, they used something with a hollow core that looked wooden, and bamboo is very close to that. So we're gonna try it out.
Did Robin Hood use some movie magic? Let's take a closer look. Slowed right down, the target arrow sure does look hollow, and the rings on the edge are very similar to bamboo. Of course, bamboo originates in Asia. Robin Hood did not fire arrows like this. But can the team split this completely unauthentic, movie-inspired shaft?
Got it, buddy.
That is what I'm talking about. Jim, you are the man!
Nice
Fire.
They cheated, but got what they wanted. A not-to-tip split that looks nearly identical to that from the movie. And what's more, it took just one arrow to get it right.
So, on splitting an arrow revisit, we followed all the viewers' advice. And what was the result?
I mean, we gave them what they asked for. We made our own arrows. We had a traditional longbow. We even brought in a skilled archer who hit it, and he couldn't split it.
After we were at the range and we saw how the bamboo split right down the center, and we saw how we couldn't get into the cedar arrows more than 10 inches, I think the movie used bamboo.
And as we know, anything's possible in the movies.
That's right.
Is it busted?
Still busted.
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 Civil War rocket.
The MythBusters are revisiting Confederate rocket.
Ignition. Here goes.
In that myth, their ludicrous launch exceeded all expectation. So far, the same can't be said of their revisit. Their first Salami rocket was rather sorry for itself. But all is not lost. To try to get a little more altitude, the team is going to give it one more go with a new nozzle that may better focus the thrust. And that's not the only change.
You know, the main criticism we got for our first Confederate rocket launch was that we did not have sufficient camera coverage. People complained that we didn't cover the rocket's flight and that we didn't have an onboard camera.
You have to remember that this was an experimental rocket, and we had no idea that it was actually going to work. I thought it was going to blow up. Well, for those viewers that want to see some of that kind of fancy footage, here's some from Eric Gates.
Eric Gates, rocket expert and cameraman. And luckily, Eric just happens to have brought his rocket camera with him. But will the new Salami rocket reach an altitude as high as this?
We got a junkyard rocket, man. This is fire number 2 with onboard camera.
It's got all the gadgets, but will this Salami rocket break the 20-foot record?
In 3, 2, 1.
It didn't go even as far as the first one.
But it went up! Hey! All right.
On ignition, the nozzle blew out, so there was nothing to focus the Salami thrust. And the onboard camera blew too, but it was mission accomplished.
I'm actually not at all surprised that Salami works really well as a rocket fuel. No doubt ours could be better. We need a little more refinement here and there. But the beauty of the hybrid rocket is that it'll burn just about any hydrocarbon, and it'll burn it aggressively enough to serve as a rocket fuel. So, you know, we could have gone to the moon with Salami.
The moon? That's only 240,000 miles to go.
So, Salami rocket is busted, plausible, or confirmed?
Hey, a flight's a flight. We got airborne, so it's confirmed.
Salami does seem to make a pretty good rocket fuel, but I'm gonna stick with paraffin.
Okay.
I'm taking this back home.
He's tired now.